Coming to you live from a Walmart parking lot in a men's restroom. This is Thick Manny.
We are live here with your host, top 100 Madden player Tristan Kilgannon and ESPN featured athlete Isaiah Ashley. Last week, we had a heated debate over the Astros scandal and went in depth on the Wilder Fury fight number 2. If you haven't checked it out already, please do. It was a good one. This week, we will be covering James Harden pooping himself, the Giannis Harden beef in general, Spike Lee being disrespected by the Knicks, as well as a few other topics thrown in. Timestamps will be in the description, as always. They now work on phones, and I can just click on them. Give us a like, lob us a sub, and Isaiah, why don't you start us off with the Harden-Giannis feud?
I would love to. As my co-host has said, James Harden and Giannis Antetokounmpo have been having a bit of controversy in the media. So I'm going to give you a brief timeline of the events. This all started when Giannis Antetokounmpo won the 2018-2019 MVP award. James Harden finished second in the voting. The entire Houston Rockets organization, James Harden himself included, would then spend the next year taking shots at Mr. Antetokounmpo, saying stuff like, "Oh, I think what he brings to the game isn't as valuable as James Harden, and the NBA is all about narratives. That's why he won the MVP." Giannis, for the most part, stayed quiet on this, simply stating, "The trophy's in my house." Not very aggressive, but at the same time, not too passive either. Then we get to the 2020 All-Star Draft, where Giannis says he wants a passer during the All-Star Draft and takes Kemba Walker over James Harden. James Harden probably didn't like this, but that's not when the beef really started brewing. In a post-game interview, Giannis jokingly said that his team's strategy on offense was to go after whoever Harden was guarding, and that he thought that would be their best way to score. James Harden did not handle this well. He let out a series of zesty quotes, making more of the situation than was there, but I'll read you a few. "I average more assists than him, I think, Kemba Walker, and I don't see what the joke is. The joke is you dribble the ball for about 30 seconds each possession," but another quote, "I didn't even see the All-Star Draft. I don't pay attention to stuff like that. I just know none of them can mess with me." Laughs. Well, clearly they can because they were going at you all All-Star game.
He also called himself the best player in the NBA.
I'm getting there, but thank you for stealing my thunder, hurting my narrative. Moving on. "When it's all said and done, they will appreciate it more," said Harden. "But I wish I could just run and be 7 feet and just dunk. Like, that takes no skill at all." Oh, my God. That is such a flawed quote that I could take an entire video ranting about it. If being 7 feet tall made you as good as basketball as Giannis is, Ryan Hollins would be an all-time great player. That is all I have to say about that for now. And finally, I'd actually learned how to play basketball and how to have skill, you know. I'll take that any day. James Harden, you are a very skillful player, but your style of play revolves around dribbling the ball and flopping and shooting 16 free throws a game. Some would say that does not require much skill. It takes a lot more skill to actually get open and hit a three than flop and get 2 free baskets from the free throw line. In response, Giannis said all this, "At the end of the day, there's no back and forth. If that's what Harden believes, it's what he believes." And this to be a very logical place for the beef to end and a conclusion and a few games on to be played. In their next game, Giannis put up 32 points, 13 boards, and 6 assists in 27 minutes, facing a real team in the Oklahoma City Thunder, blasting them, blowing them out, humiliating them. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have James Harden, who shot 4 for 17 from 3, had 5 turnovers, and pooped his pants. Amusingly enough, James Harden would then go on to say later that week, "Come try me with that blank. It won't work," in response to the whole, "Oh, just go James Harden when you have the ball." Very short.
The blank was shit.
Yeah, that.
If any of the viewers didn't know.
If our viewers are wondering, I'm sure the quote's up on the screen. But a very poor choice of words, considering you had to get a new pair of pants during the game. But this is James Harden sticking with his normal thing of being a diva, much like the entire Houston Rockets organization. So bitter that their mechanics and their schematics and their analytics cannot get them past real teams. Every year it feels like they're getting blasted in the playoffs by someone who's just better than them at basketball, and there's nothing they can do. And I'd be frustrated too. And James Harden's clearly taking out his frustration on Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is on his way to winning his second MVP award in a row.
I mean, I think Harden is a great player and is actually having an underrated season because he has Westbrook around him now, and the Lakers and Clippers are a much bigger storyline in the West and are much better teams, or most people regard them as much better teams than the Rockets. But like you said, minimizing Giannis to just being tall, dribbling up and down the court is moronic. Giannis almost has 6 assists per game, a steal per game, and has just as many points per game as he does minutes played. So if he played 7 more minutes a game like Harden is, he'd probably be leading the league in scoring, which Harden is like, yeah, and they're not even acknowledging that I'm leading the league in scoring when talking about him not being top 5 in the MVP voting. I don't think when Harden spoke about this that he necessarily even truly believes himself, because you watch his body language. He's busy looking away from her, touching his nose, just doing all this shit. So I don't even think he believes what he's saying, and it's just trying to present a narrative to make himself feel better about himself.
Look, honestly, Harden should focus more on his game than his little post-game interviews. Recently, he's been a gigantic slump ever since they traded Capella. His performance has gone down a little bit, in my opinion. Russell Westbrook has been there to save the day. He's been playing incredibly well, but Harden needs to step it up during the regular season. He's going to have to face one of the real teams in the West in the first round. And I don't think James Harden wants yet another first-round exit.
It's kind of also quite. I wonder why no one pressed James Harden if he did in fact poop himself after the game. Picture was pretty widespread on Twitter.
It is damning evidence indeed. I feel bad for the man in a way, but if you want to talk crap and then do that, it's just unfortunate.
Now, what do you think was something he ate? Do you think he ate Chipotle the night before?
Now,
what do you think happened there?
I don't want to blame Chipotle. It's more than likely Moe's or some of that good Mexican food they have down in Texas. That could be the key reason, I'd say. But Chipotle's close, but don't slander such a fine establishment. Come on now. Lower quality Mexican food.
Do you have anything else to say about the feud?
Yeah, James Harden will be looked back on as one of the biggest divas in league history. But moving on.
I mean, last thing on Giannis, I think Giannis is having a spectacular season as long as he doesn't shit the bed and LeBron doesn't go off, he will win the MVP in runaway fashion.
Again.
LeBron could go off, though.
If a player averaged what Giannis was averaging on the offensive end, putting up as many points and rebounds as he is, and was the best defender in the league by all advanced measures, you would be... If LeBron was doing this, you'd be thrown off the planet if you said he shouldn't be the unanimous MVP. This is all LeBron favoritism. And another thing on that, you can't be the MVP if you've got another superstar on your team. That's just my personal opinion. It's what stopped Kevin Durant, Steph Curry from winning MVPs. It's what's going to stop James Harden and Russell Westbrook from winning MVPs. And the narrative has begun to change because, LeBron's having a really good year with another superstar on his team. That narrative that LeBron should win MVP is ridiculous. If you take him off that team, the Lakers with Anthony Davis may be still a playoff team. If you take Giannis off that Bucks team, 1, Chris Middleton's not an all-star. 2, they're in the lottery.
I'm just saying, the Lakers are playing the Bucks coming up soon. If they win that game in convincing fashion and LeBron dominates, you never know.
What happened the last time the Bucks played the Lakers this year?
I have no idea.
Giannis splashed all over LeBron and AD from 3, and they won the game handily. Expect to see it again.
Viewers, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think about Harden Giannis beef. And moving on, we're going to be talking about the Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury trilogy fight scheduled for July 18th. This is what I think most people felt would happen. A fighter of Wilder's pride and knockout history cannot face the potential media storm that would come with declining a trilogy. Their second fight is also the highest grossing heavyweight fight to ever be held in Las Vegas. There's a lot of money to be made with a third fight. And if you want to break down the impassioned debate me and Isaiah had last week, check it out. I think this is the worst case scenario for Wilder as far as winning another fight with Fury. The trilogy fight is only 5 months after his second fight. What I think would have been the best for the heavyweight division, entertainment, and the entire sports world is if Wilder had a year, maybe a tune-up fight in between, had a chance to really develop some type of game plan to counter one of the greatest technical boxers the division has seen. we might see a much better result. During that time, we'd be able to watch a reunification bout between Joshua and Fury, and then there would be a true world champion. We would not have Fury with the lineal heavyweight title, 1 belt, and Joshua holding 3 of the 4 belts. We would have a true champion. Then Wilder fights the winner. However, we're going to get another Wilder Fury match because everyone needs to make money. If Wilder doesn't take it now, who knows if he gets another chance. It's annoying that it has to be this way, but hopefully in this short time period, Wilder truly rethinks his game plan and retools his game plan.
There were 3 things that held Deontay Wilder back in his last fight with Tyson Fury. A trainer who threw the towel in too early, his inability to box while moving backwards, and a 45-pound costume. And 2 of those things can easily be changed before July 18th. 1, not so much. I'm, of course, referring to the 45-pound costume. If you're going to walk into a ring and fight Tyson Fury, you've got to have some form of advanced gear on to assert dominance over. But in all seriousness, if Wilder can figure out how to stay alive while moving backwards, this will be a much different fight. The real question is, can he do that by July 18th? And I'm here to tell you something that no one else in the wide world of sports and boxing will tell you. We don't know. Nobody knows if Deontay Wilder will be able to change like that in this limited time period. On one hand, he'd be completely changing his style, which focuses on him driving forward, making his opponent feel small, certain that he's the dominant one in the ring. Be a complete change. You have to learn how to do something he has never done before in his career. At the same time, Deontay Wilder is a super athlete who can rip time and space apart with his right hand. It's impossible to tell if a fighter of his caliber will be able to change in this limited period of time. For his case, I hope so. I think it will be a great fight if he does. If not, it could quite possibly be a repeat of this current fight.
See, I think it's highly unlikely that he's able to change his fighting style in 5 months because he's fought over, I think he's around 43 professional fights. So if he's fought 43 professional fights one way, or however many fights that's over 40 knockouts doing boxing one way, how is he going to change his fighting style so drastically to knock out the best fighter he's ever fought in his career and just lost to him 5 months earlier? And the very first fight, besides the 2 knockdowns, he got outboxed and many people thought he lost the fight. So I don't see how he's going to be able to change his whole game plan within 5 months and learn how to box a different way to beat him.
I think he could still stick with his current game plan of trying to force himself forward and be dominant. But it's really developing a second half of that, back to that coin, if you will, of moving backwards. He could keep doing what he's doing, but he has no ability right now to move backwards. If he can add that while doing what he's doing, I think he'll be set. That's the real thing. I think he can do both, is what I'm saying. He doesn't need to completely retool it, the more I think about it.
I mean, he always, like you talked about his right hand, he always has a chance to knock someone out with his right hand. But with the way Fury fought, he's never going to get a chance to throw that right hand if he doesn't change something.
Again, they will always have a chance just because this specimen that he is. But we're about to turn this into a repeat of last episode, so
check it out if you haven't. Moving on, the Knicks and Spike Lee have been all over the news, embroiled in controversy. And every year there's something that reminds us why the Knicks are the Knicks and will always be the Knicks. Now we have them trashing their biggest fan. This is something the Knicks are lucky to have, a fan. And Spike Lee, what the situation that went down was he entered through what the Knicks are saying was a staff entrance, and that he is more than welcome to go through the regular entrance, like he would go through regular entrance tickets he's paying $1 million to go through.
The celebrity entrance, not the regular.
No, they said regular. They said they said regular, or they said celebrity. I was about to say celebrity, Isaiah. But then Spike Lee went on First Take and elaborated how he's been going through that specific entrance for the last 28 years and was never notified. The night before the game, he had gone through the same entrance to go to some type of play. I forget exactly what the play was. Isaiah, if you remember,
not relevant.
Welcome.
The play is not relevant.
But he still went in the same exact entrance. And he says he was only upset because he had just, he had been using it for 28 years. He just used that entrance. And now all of a sudden they're saying to him, yeah, you can't go in through here. You have to, first of all, if you're a celebrity that attends an event and you have been paid over $10 million for those tickets the past 28 years of your life, that team should be giving you preferential treatment. Many other teams give celebrities like that preferential treatment. If you're someone of note, you are going to get preferential treatment. And it is ridiculous that out of nowhere, the Knicks, on the day they're signing their president, are like, you have to go in through a different entrance, Spike Lee. We're going to carry you out. It's just ridiculous. Something so typical of the Knicks. And I think if people are to think otherwise, they're just crazy.
Well, speaking of just crazy, they do have preferential treatment. It's called a celebrity entrance. But moving on a little bit of that, the Knicks are in a terrible position here in a lot of ways, namely because of how bad the basketball team they have out on the floor is. But I digress. We're not talking about the terrible Knicks basketball team right now. We're talking about the terrible Knicks owners. But asking Spike Lee to use a celebrity entrance is a reasonable request, in my opinion. If they had done it a different way,
I don't
this
disagree.
would be a news story. They shouldn't have done it with security. I don't think it's that big an issue. But Spike Lee's not exactly in the right here either. He has been proven wrong in this whole story on multiple occasions. First off, he said, Dolan didn't shake my hand when he came down and talked to me during the half. Knicks released a photo. That's a lie. And say, that's a minor detail. You need to be 100% right about stuff like that. You need to remember everything if you're going to go on TV and attack an organization.
That wasn't the main point. That wasn't the main point of his
with the security. He put his hands behind his back
misleading.
And screamed at them, "Take me away like Oakley, like my brother Oakley," acting like it was at all a similar situation. Oakley pushed a security guard, and that's what got him arrested. That's assault, brother. He just had a little verbal altercation outside an elevator, and he tried to compare himself to Oakley in that way. That rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. I think Spike Lee shouldn't have gone on TV unless he had his story right. Clearly, he didn't. I think it's a reasonable request to ask him to use the celebrity entrance. Clearly, they didn't do it the right way, but at the same time, come on now. It's not that ridiculous to ask, hey, this is a staff entrance. Staff activities are going on here. If we drop a light on your head, we would be in the worst PR situation of any team since the Malice in the Palace. But
Spike Lee hasn't said anything that the request wasn't ridiculous. He was saying that he wasn't notified and they had scanned his ticket and he already went up the elevator until they said something, and he'd be doing the same thing for the last 28 years. So no one's saying that the request isn't ridiculous.
It is clear that the request is considered ridiculous by Mr. Spike Lee based off the interview.
He said that he wouldn't have minded if they told him much beforehand, which they haven't, and the Knicks haven't even denied that they didn't let him know beforehand.
Again, though, do you really think that's how he feels? Would he have gone on TV if he didn't feel the request in and of itself was unreasonable? I'm not saying they handled it the right way. I'm just saying
he went on TV because of how the way they handled it.
Himself.
It's because of how the way they handled it, and then being completely inept. And with you saying that the James Dolan shakes his hand, first of all, who knows if that picture was taken from that night? They were
wearing the same clothes, or Spike Lee was wearing the same pieces of clothing he was during the game as he was in that picture. That picture was from the same night. Don't try and pull that crap.
Okay, but the message in Spike Lee's interview on First Take was that he felt disrespected, and he may have, I don't remember if he directly said that he didn't shake his hand, but he was saying that the situation was him denying James Dolan's trying to be nice about it and trying whatever James Dolan was saying he was saying that he was rubbed the wrong way about it. It wasn't that he didn't shake his hand, and like that wasn't the message of the conversation.
And I'm not saying that it was the message of the conversation. I'm saying if you want to have credibility and go on TV, you have to be right about the small stuff, and he was wrong about the small stuff. So I think that loses some credibility to me.
Yeah, but the Knicks have been wrong about this.
Like. I don't think we're getting a fair representation from it of Spike Lee or Dolan's opinion. If you look at the little PR statement the Knicks put out, I don't think that's a great representation either. I'm just saying we don't know, and your urge to throw blame at the Knicks is a little bit unfounded here.
But with the Knicks' history of doing quite ridiculous things in Dolan's history, I feel like there's a very good reason to side with the Knicks. And when you're biggest fan, biggest spokesperson of your organization, someone who Stephen A. mentioned on First Take today was going out of his way to recruit Dwayne Wade to the Knicks in 2013 when he's not paid by the Knicks to do so, traveling to Miami, traveling to where Dwayne Wade was to recruit him. He's done stuff for the Knicks that they can't even do themselves. So the fact that you're so upset
No, he's
with
done
him.
exactly what the Knicks can do for themselves because Dwayne Wade didn't go to New York.
Well, they clearly weren't doing a good enough job, and if they maybe got involved more, maybe something else would have happened. He's done
Or
so
Dwayne
much for the
Wade doesn't want to play in
organization,
New
is
York.
such a big representation of them, that the fact that they disrespected him to such a high level is insane and shows that they're never going to change unless James Dolan sells a team.
No, they're never going to change unless the New York Knicks fans pull their heads out of their asses and stop going to games. Every night, that crappy arena, the Garden, is packed. One of the most overrated venues in the NBA, in my opinion. Every night, that place is packed. And sure, attendance is going to be down for a few weeks because maybe even for a month or two, maybe even for the rest of the season. But by next year, Knicks fans will be lining up to see their 20-win team. And by this time next year, Spike Lee is going to be sat in his seat enjoying a Knicks Jazz blowout game. And it's just going to revert back to the same thing. Spike Lee's not going to change. He's going to keep going to Knicks games.
He didn't go to the game last night.
He's not going to the rest of the season. That was stated on the interview. But he's going to keep going to Knicks games. And the fans are going to keep going to Knicks games. If you want to stop Dolan from being incompetent, and I agree Dolan is incompetent, Spike Lee is to just stop going to games, has put the message out there, hey, fans, we deserve better than this. Let's stop going to Knicks games and making them one of the most profitable NBA teams in the league. It's easy to do. You've got to bite the bullet for a few years and stop going to games. And just like that, Dolan doesn't own the Knicks anymore. But Spike Lee won't do it, and the dumb New York fans won't do it. So we're going to be right back here, one of the greatest basketball cities in the world being squandered by an incompetent owner and an incompetent fan base.
Well, I think we agree on that. We can end on that. And moving on, we're going to be talking about the NFL Combine. Two prospects that shocked Twitter. They were all over Twitter. First, Mekhi Becton. He is an animal unlike we've ever seen before. Very rarely are people wowed and excited by an offensive tackle's 40-yard dash time. He ran a 5.1 40 at 6'7", 364 pounds. That is mind-boggling. His body fat percentage was recorded at just 17%. So that's a whole lot of muscle there in a 364-pound body. It seems like this man was made in a lab. I have not kept up with other offensive tackle prospects in the draft, but the fact he is so tall, so big, and produced in college, if I'm a team in the middle of the first round thinking about drafting an offensive lineman, I am 1,000,000% drafting him. If I'm a Giants fan, so if the Giants decide to trade down and draft an offensive lineman, I'll be extremely happy if he's their selection.
Are you going to be happy when they draft him with the first pick they have instead of trading
Daniel
down?
Jones style?
Yes, another bust in a row. But I will agree, he was very impressive, but he's not one of the combine performers I want to talk about. I'll let you keep talking about the standouts, though.
Another standout that everyone saw all over Twitter was Isaiah Simmons. And then initially, I ignorantly thought that Isaiah Simmons was a gimmick. I thought, yeah, right, a guy that can play safety, defensive end, and linebacker. I was thinking he's probably a guy much like a Deion Buchanan, Mark Barron type that plays linebacker because he can't play safety. But those were much smaller men, and I did not take into account that he's 6'4", 238 pounds, and at the 40, we're in a 4.39 40-yard dash. His speed, size, ability to chase down anyone jumps off film when you watch it, and I took the time to watch it. He is incredible. I think that any team that isn't drafting Chase Young, a quarterback, you have to take him. There is so much potential you can exploit when you put someone down on the defensive line. He can cover any position on the field with his speed and size. Covered receivers in college, rushed the passer in college, played linebacker. He did everything. I would be ecstatic if the Giants decided to take him with the 4th overall pick if they do not decide to trade down.
So are you just going to gas up every single potential Giants prospect?
No, I'm just excited. I mean, the Becton's not really a Giants prospect. I just think his overall, like just him in general, is a spectacle.
Just a beefcake.
Beefcake.
But very impressive. I'd agree with you. Isaiah Simmons, freak of nature. Henry Ruggs III, freak of nature, 4.27 40, fastest of the combine, one of the fastest ever. But I'm not here to talk about the guys we all knew were going to be great. I'm here to talk about one standout performer and a couple of unfortunate individuals. But starting off, I'm going to talk about Michael Turks. Now, Michael Turks is a punter. And normally, what do you think of when you think of punters?
Little bitch.
You think of weak, scrawny guys wearing glasses, don't know where to put their hands on the sideline, just weird-looking dudes who don't belong on the football field. This man bench pressed 225 pounds 25 times. That is more than quite a few linemen. That is a ridiculously impressive physical performance. And I'm beginning to think that instead of punting the ball in practice, this man just trotted on into the weight room and hit bicep, tricep, supersets the entire 3-hour practice instead of kicking. It is a very impressive feat for someone of his position to do that. I was amazed, I was shocked, and I was in awe. It was truly something to behold. But now, moving away from the highlights of the draft, we are going to talk about the lowlights of the draft.
Combine.
And the Combine is a great place for a lot of people to prove what they have, but the Combine can also be disastrous for a few people. That's why guaranteed top picks like Chase Young and Joe Burrow chose not to participate. It could really screw you over. But starting off, we're going to talk about the slowest 40-yard dash. Trey Adams, a man out of Washington, ran a stout 5.6 in the 40. That is in contention for one of the top 10 slowest 40 times ever. Not exactly an impressive showing for him. We'll get back to
you can probably
later
run
on this
faster
list.
than him.
I actually recently ran a 4.98, so I've got
You ran a
little
4.98. There we go, Isaiah.
There we go. Progress. It's amazing what happens when you lose 60 pounds.
Let's go.
But Chris Fink out of Notre Dame put up 225 pounds only 7 times. I say only in parentheses because that is still very impressive. I guarantee you every person in here besides maybe me, Tristan, and the random college athlete watching this cannot do that. That's very impressive. Then we get back to our friend Trey Adams, who again appears pulling down the lowest vertical with 24.5 inches. Again, it blows my mind that is the lowest vertical. That is still a kind of impressive vertical for an average person, particularly a man of his size.
He was a college athlete, so he should have an above average.
He was a college athlete at the University of Washington. But then, for the third time, we have reached Trey Adams with only a 92-inch broad jump. That is what we call unimpressive in the industry. Keep in mind, there are people well into the 100s on their broad jump. But we're not here to shame Trey Adams too much. We have finally reached a speed-related event that Mr. Adams did not finish last in. Justin Herron put down an impressive 8.4-second three-cone drill. And to give you an idea about the type of speed that is, there are people who can do that in 5 seconds. And finally, rounding off the list, we have the 20-yard shuttle. And our friend, Deontay Jones, out of the illustrious Mississippi, put down a 5.2-yard 20-yard shuttle. A 5.2-second 20-yard shuttle. All in all, these guys probably should have just stayed home that day. This could not have been good for their draft stock. And while it is fun to laugh at them, I think it is worth noting that if you put all these traits together, the athlete that would be formed would probably be better than 90% of all high school or college athletes.
Well, I mean, they're at the combine, so they're some of the best players going to
some of the best players, clearly not some of the best athletes. But moving on, unless you want to add anything to my list.
I mean, you got to. What position did the guy who only did 7 reps play?
Wide out.
So I mean, that doesn't really matter too much.
Means he's gonna get jammed at the line of scrimmage.
He could be a slot guy, plays off the line, runs around him. You don't need to jam him necessarily. But I mean, Trey Adams. There's a bunch of high school linemen that can put up numbers that he put up. It's not the best. Very unimpressive. And the fact that he's a bottom in multiple categories isn't looking good for...
Not good for the stock.
Nope.
Quite bad indeed. But moving on to our final topic of the day. It is Zion Williamson.
Come on. We need a Pat McAfee intro, Isaiah.
We need a Pat McAfee intro. Well, you've stolen my thunder. When you think of electrifying, when you think of dynamic, when you think of show-stopping NBA talent, some may think of Giannis. Some may think of LeBron. No one thinks of James Harden, but I think of Zion. Zion is by far the best rookie in the NBA. In fact, he's probably the best young player in the NBA. And I say that with full knowledge of the competition he's going up against. John Morant isn't this good. Luka Doncic isn't this good on the offensive end, and certainly wasn't this good his rookie year after he'd been playing against professionals his entire life. Ben Simmons had an entire year to practice with an NBA team and still wasn't this good as a rookie, and still probably isn't this good now. And finally, we get to Karl-Anthony Towns, who definitely isn't this good now. But if you don't believe me, believe LeBron James. LeBron James played John Morant and Zion Williamson back-to-back nights this week. In the first matchup against the Grizzlies, LeBron looked slow. He looked a little bit unfocused, a little bit lethargic on the defensive end. He only put up 19 points, and the Lakers got blown out 105-88. And that's a game in February, March. You don't care about that game. Sunday night was different. As soon as the ball left the referee's hand, it was like a playoff game. LeBron was great at every aspect of the game, passing the ball phenomenally, hitting people he wasn't even looking at, scoring without effort, putting his testicles on Josh Hart's head. It was another phenomenal outing from LeBron James we've seen so many of this season. Namely, the most key aspect, though, he was very good on defense, something we haven't seen all year. To Zion's eternal credit, he matched LeBron on offense. He outscored the King on far fewer shots. And as the game progressed, it started to slip away from the Pelicans. They began moving away from Zion and towards Brandon Ingram. A coaching decision I am questioned to the extreme degree, but the Pelicans would indeed go on to lose that game. But the most important thing out of that game for me, the effort LeBron put in. LeBron's statement was made loud and clear, and it was heard by the NBA. He considers Zion a threat. John Morant didn't get that treatment the night before. Ben Simmons didn't get playoff Bron his rookie year. It took Jason Tatum forcing LeBron James to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals to get that treatment. And Zion just got it on Sunday night in March. Interesting. Very, very interesting. This is Zion Williamson's league, and we're all living in it.
I don't know if it's his league yet. First thing I would like to say is I am no longer cautiously optimistic. Zion Williamson is a Hall of Fame talent. The relentless strength and explosion with which he plays is incredible. People worrying about him getting injured need to just shut up. I myself was falling victim to this narrative. If he's going to tear an ACL, no minutes restriction, no sitting back to backs is going to save him from it. If he's going to get injured, he's going to get injured. He's the future face of the NBA going against one of the GOATs, LeBron James. It was a special sight to see. The only reason you kind of said it, that they lost, Isaiah, was that Brandon Ingram was a combined 6 for 31 from the field and from three. When you miss 25 shots, you're going to lose a basketball game. And then you talked about LeBron. They got playoff LeBron, and he dropped 34 points, had 12 rebounds, and 13 assists. The Pelicans aren't there yet, but they will 100% be a top 4 playoff team in the West within the 3 years. As far as Zion's production and the Lakers not being able to stop them, he was bullying Kuzma in the paint. He was bullying even LeBron when LeBron was guarding him. Anthony Davis was not playing and was injured. So if Anthony Davis was part of the game, maybe Zion's production would have changed a little bit. But it was a really good game to watch. Zion balled out. LeBron balled out. Maybe, I mean, we're not going to see him in the playoffs, but who knows?
That is a opinion which could easily be proven wrong. But I'm going to get on you a second about the Anthony Davis thing. At multiple points in that game, they had JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard on the floor at the same time. And I'm sorry, but those two combined are better on defense than Anthony Davis is by himself. That is a phenomenal force to put in the paint to stop someone like Zion. And it didn't stop him. It just didn't stop him. There is no singular force which can stop Zion right now. It is a combined team.
Anthony Davis would have helped out a lot.
Teams much like what happened with Giannis in the playoffs last year against the Raptors, swarming the paint in an attempt to stop Zion Williamson. The only difference is Zion has a 40-plus inch vertical. I don't know how good Zion's going to be for how long. I think he's going to be has Pantheon potential. You're still in doubt.
I want you to react to something.
We'll have to wait.
I saw this on First Take today, and Zion has, regarding his injuries, he's played one back-to-back in his last 17 games, and Kawhi Leonard has played one back-to-back in his last 117 games.
I do not like Kawhi Leonard, particularly upon his exit from the Spurs. I give him eternal credit to going to LA. If what's working for him is working for him, that's fine. I only know this about Kawhi. He didn't play many back-to-backs, but he didn't miss a playoff game last year.
I mean, how many back-to-back playoff games do you play, though?
None. You don't play back-to-back playoff games.
The main point of that is if Kawhi's not playing – Kawhi's played one back-to-back in 170 games. Zion has played one in his last 17. Like I said, people are worried about him getting injured. I think they need to check themselves. If he's going to get injured, he's going to get injured. You can't really prevent it. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
You sound so presumptuous if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You're kind of implying it's going to happen. But that's
No,
okay.
I don't.
Zion Williamson and I feed off the hate.
I'm not hating.
We love it.
I'm not hating, Isaiah. I'm just saying.
When LeBron James bows down to Zion Williamson in the Western Conference Finals next year, you will know.
Do you think they're going to be in the Western Conference Finals next year?
In the NBA. Western Conference Finals next year. Not this year, because if you get saying it's going to be a first-round matchup, that'll be electrifying. That'll be must-see TV if it happens, and I think it's going to happen.
They're not making the playoffs.
It's okay to be a hater.
It's okay to be wrong, Isaiah. You do it a lot, especially last week. But
I'm sorry, you can't handle the truth. But that has been our podcast. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. I'm not going to tell you to like and subscribe. I'm just going to wink at you a little bit, and we will see you next week.
Peace.